Hello, friends, and welcome. Let's start our class today off with a prayer together. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, friend, beloved God, great masters, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Sri Yukteswarji, beloved Guru Deva, Paramahansa Yogananda Ji, saints of all religions, we bow at thy feet. Bless our satsang this evening with thy presence, with thy love, and thy joy. We open ourselves to thee. Om Shanti Shanti. Our topic tonight is how to find time for God. We'll start with a song and then an excerpt from a talk by Swami Kriyanandaji on the topic. Welcome again, friends.
If you're seeking freedom in a revolution, oh, if you're seeking freedom, you won't find it there. For once the guns stop blazing, you'll find it amazing how the world can drag on just as before. If you're seeking freedom in a marble mansion, oh, if you're seeking freedom, you won't find it there. For even when it's sunny, you'll be counting money, keeping up that showcase, your face lined with care. And if you're seeking freedom on a throne of power, oh, if you're seeking freedom, you won't find it there. For though men all obey you, what if they betray you? Tense you'll be and waiting for foes everywhere. But if you're seeking freedom, cast away desires, why barter like a beggar? You've wealth everywhere. For never can you buy it, grasp and you deny it. Freedom can't be hoarded, it's free as the air. And if you're seeking freedom, seek it on the mountains, God's sunlight on your shoulders, the wind in your hair. For there's no one can hold you, boss about or mold you. Once your heart is free, you'll be king everywhere.
If you try a little bit, don't make a big effort, but a little bit every day, 5 minutes even, 15 minutes, you'll find that if you do that, it'll become easier to put in half an hour. Don't allow anything to get in your way. I remember one time I had a call that there were some very important guests who had come to see me. And I said, nothing is more important than God. And so I hadn't finished my meditation. I finished my meditation, then I went to see them. It was fine, there was no problem. If you don't play the world's game, the world will gradually start to play your game. It'll go along with you. Be firm, first of all, in your commitment. The next thing is to understand that it isn't by passive effort that you will be able to get out of your obstacles. You don't sort of wait for the opportunities. You look for them and you also create them. It's like a runner who on the football field looks for an opening and then takes it. So you have to do that with life. But there's also the need to create these opportunities. And when you generate enough energy on your own, if everything you do, instead of being passive, in other words, we've got to learn to become a cause and not an effect in life. All too often people allow themselves to be effects. There was a roommate of mine in college who had a number of faults which I used to he himself wasn't happy with them, and so I used to try to encourage him to put out the energy to overcome them. It wasn't that I was nagging him. It was he didn't want it either. But he always would come back with the excuse that, well, but my parents treated me this way, and my background is such, and I come from such and such a social strata and milieu, and as a result, what hope is there? Well, the fact is that if you are creative in life, you will find that life will begin to give you opportunities. You will be putting, as I said earlier, you will be putting out a certain kind of magnetism that will draw to yourself a completely new set of circumstances.
Welcome, everyone. I'd like to start our class tonight off with a very beautiful story that will inspire us to spend and want to spend more time with God. This was in a blog by Nayaswami Devi, and also Swamiji would often tell this story. There is a beautiful story about a devotee, let's call him Ramdas, whose heart was pure, guileless, and filled with devotion for God. Every morning at the end of his meditation, he would pray, Lord, whenever you call me to forsake this world, at that moment I will come. Though God never called, Ramdas still offered his heartfelt prayer daily. Time passed, and he and his wife became filled with great joy, awaiting the birth of their first child. But such is the nature of Maya's alternating waves of joy and sorrow, that his happiness turned to grief when his wife died in childbirth. As he took the helpless baby in his arms, Ramdas was filled with parental love and the desire to protect this tiny motherless child. Just at that moment, God broke his silence and called to him, Ramdas, now is the time for you to leave all and come to me. With eyes filled with tears, Ramdas replied, Lord, you know that you are my heart's first love, and I will come, but I also have a human heart. Please reassure me that this child will be cared for. In response, God said to him, place the infant in a basket and leave it along the road outside the village. Then wait behind a tree and see what happens. Ramdas did as God instructed him. And after a while, he heard the sound of many horses approaching. It was the queen of the realm and her entourage en route to a nearby city. At the sound of the horses, the infant awoke from his slumber and began to cry. Hearing the wailing, the queen stopped the entourage and instructed one of her attendants to bring the baby to her. Ramdas watched in amazement as the queen took his child in her arms and said, I will raise this poor abandoned baby as my own. He dedicated the rest of his life to seeking God. His heart reassured, Ramdas quietly walked away into the forest to dedicate the rest of his life to God alone. What a very, very beautiful story. And it makes us wonder, how much time do we give to God? How much of our heart's devotion? How much gratitude? How much love? How much do we give to God in our daily lives? As Master said in the poem, God, 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 this very last line, in waking, eating, working, dreaming, sleeping, serving, meditating, chanting, divinely loving, my soul will constantly hum, unhurt by any, God, God, God. when I first heard these words from the Bible, when I was on the path, actually. Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all these things shall be added unto you. I didn't really know what that meant. Maybe I didn't believe it. Maybe I didn't want to believe it. I certainly didn't want to do that, to put God first. And then I realized that only with God did my life work. As I got my first job after college, I was doing so many things, and I had a nice life. I had everything laid out for me, and I still was unhappy. I still felt in my heart that there's something missing, and that was God. That was Divine Mother. And when I thought about that line, seek ye first the kingdom of God, I finally realized what it really meant. It meant to pray first in your day. Meditate first before you go into your day. Chant first before you go into your activities. Read the scriptures or something inspiring first before you go into the workplace. Feel uplifted first. Energize, do yoga, whatever it is, first. Seek ye first. Put God in your heart first before you go out and you do anything in your day. And then you'll be centered in that no matter what. And you find in hard times like these times, people turn to prayer. People seek God. They want God, but we should be seeking God all the time. And the good times and the times that aren't so good, our heart should always be in alignment with God. And there's always the thought from people that I just don't have the time. And that a lot of people feel, but actually when you start looking at your life, you find that you do actually have a lot more time than you thought. When I first got on the path, I used to think I didn't have time as well, but I took a sheet of paper and I wrote on one side how I used my time. How much time do I sleep? How much time do I use going to the shopping mall? How much time on the phone? How much time in socializing? How much time in various things in my life? And then I wrote on the other side how I want to use my time. I want to chant. I want to meditate more. I want to do yoga. I want to go to the satsangs. I want to do these things. And I found that I looked at that side with all the things I lined up, that how much time on television, it was just way too much time sleeping, way too much time socializing. And I recommend this to you because I found on that page where I had lined up all the things, how I used my time, I had a lot of time that was fillers, a lot of time where I was wasting time. And I said, I'm going to take this time and I'm put it into chanting. I'm going to put this into meditation. I'm going to put this into yoga postures. I'm going to put this into service and going to the satsang. And you find if you really want to do something, if you want to learn to sing, if you want to learn to run a marathon, if you want to learn to swim, if you want to learn to cook, if whatever, you'll find the time. If you want to spend more time with God, if you really look at your life, you will find that there's a lot of time. And you need to make a commitment to God. And then I found Divine Mother makes a commitment to you. I remember when I first came on the path, the relief of finding a spiritual path, the relief of moving into an ashram where people were chanting God's name and meditating every day, the relief I felt from the heaviness of the life that I was living. And that was because I put God in my life and I put God first and I meditated and I chanted and all that before I went out into my work. And so if you really want to do it, you can, but there has to be a commitment on your part. And then Divine Mother opens the door and she helps you. I remember here I'm at Ananda Village, and every day during my work day at 12 o'clock, I had an appointment. And that appointment was with Divine Mother. And that was before lunch. And no one really knew where I was going, but I had that appointment. And people would try to say, well, let's have a meeting. Let's go for a walk. Or I said, no, I have an appointment. I didn't share who it was with. But I made that commitment for years and years and years. And also when I was new on the path, Master said to have a long meditation once a week. I dedicated that. And these are things that you have to make the commitment yourself. But I would go on Friday nights. I would drive through the traffic and the highways, freeways of Los Angeles. And I would get to one of Master's shrines and I would sit for 3 hours and meditate. I couldn't meditate well, but I made the commitment to spend that time with Divine Mother. And same for Saturday mornings and next mornings, and from the time I got up to 12 o'clock, that's my time with God. So you have to look at your life and say, okay, I'm going to use Sunday afternoons or Saturday night or Saturday morning or whatever. But as you make the commitment, you find that Divine Mother makes a commitment to you, and she'll help you to stick with that commitment. As you do it, you find that your life becomes so wonderful. And the other thing is, be in good company, because that will spur you on to want to spend more time with God. I remember in Assisi, when we lived there, before we had a television or a TV monitor, this was pre-days of computers and social media and all these things that you can write down on your list of how you spend your time. And what did we do? This was in the mid-'80s. Every night we would chant, everybody in their own room. And you would hear someone next door doing that. I'm going to play that chant, and you'd play that chant. And you'd hear someone in the next room. Oh, I love that chant. I'm going to play that chant. Every night people just chanted and chanted and chanted and chanted. And remember Swamiji said, now that's what I like to hear in this ashram. Mm-hmm. And think about it. Now there's so many distractions. But if you make the commitment, every night I'm going to play a chant, or every night I'm going to make sure I get my meditation, or I'm going to read something, but that's what I'm saying, by being in good company, be in good company, because those influences, they either push you towards God and spending more time with God or not. So as you come online to programs, you feel uplifted. You feel like, oh yes, of course I want to spend more time with God. As you come to things in person, a Kriya initiation or a satsang or a kirtan or whatever it is you feel. I remember when we would sit with Swami Kriyanandaji, and many of you met Swamiji, and you just feel so uplifted. You walk out of there, God alone, God alone, God alone. And you go to some other place or whatever, and it wouldn't be God alone. It would be fun alone, or shopping alone, or whatever it is. I hope it wasn't drinking alone, but there are other things that come in your mind because you're being influenced by the thoughts of the people around you. This is what darshan is about, being in the company of saints, saintly people, be in the company of those whose thoughts are on God. And I remember this morning, I went for a walk with Jyotishan Deviji, and what did we talk about? God. And then we went to the market, Deviji and I, we went there, everybody's face was just shining, and you could see what was on their minds, God. Then I went to one of my friends' houses at Durga Ji, and we were talking about God. Just be in the environment where it makes you feel uplifted with people, and also with inspiring books and talks of Swamiji that you can get on YouTube or however, but just keep that environment uplifted, and then you'll feel, of course, I want to meditate. Your meditation room, it'll start drawing you more. It becomes so magnetic, you can't walk by without going and sitting in there for a few minutes. And then the other thing is, feel God with you at your workplace and wherever. I mean, you have to make it work for yourself, and little reminders. I don't know, a book here, a saying there, a picture, a talk on your way to work, that you play in the car, the music. It all should be, as much as you can create your own ambiance, your own bubble of joy, then you will feel God's presence. And also remember, also God in nature, as you go out in nature, in the trees. And at the Crystal Hermitage where I'm staying, I go out for breakfast outside in the back garden. It's so beautiful there. And there's a beautiful pool and flowers and jasmine that's just exuding this heavenly scent. And I'm just sitting there in the middle of that jasmine. It just reminds me of, oh God, beautiful. And I look at the trees, I look at the flowers, and wherever you go, if you're going to the ocean or when you see the stars, or it reminds you. And when you go maybe for a walk in the forest or the park or up in the mountains, you just want to sit still and think of God. It's natural. And so put yourself in environments and with people where naturally you just feel, oh, I just want to close my eyes and think of God. And as you do that more and more, you will find that Divine Mother is always there with you. And finally, remember what Master said, that the soul loves to meditate. And I would extend that to say the soul loves to be with God and think of God and embrace God. But it's the ego that's pulling us away and saying, oh, no, you want to watch another movie. No, you got to go out there and go shopping. No, you've got to go and whatever it is. But once you get started, and this is what Swamiji was saying earlier, just start with something. Start with a few minutes of meditation. If you're new, if you've been meditating, then start for longer. But then what Swamiji recommended for us at times, just keep adding on. Add the next week, 5 more minutes, 10 minutes, and add a little bit more. If you want to have a long meditation, add a little bit at a time. And just realize, I think the biggest difficulty is just getting to the seat. You just get to the meditation seat, get to the meditation room. It's doing half the work for you. And as you do, you find that you love being there. And so take the time to do these various things, to connect yourself more and more with God. And you will find that the Divine Mother starts knocking at your door more and more naturally. And I'll close with this beautiful story of the Swamiji would tell us about Swami Shivananda. He had a disciple who she wanted to get up and meditate early in the morning. She wanted to meditate, so he recommended she get up at 4. That she start meditating at 4 in the morning. And you might think, oh, that's an early time. It's not really early. I find that the most blissful times are when everybody is asleep. All of nature is asleep. Everybody around you is asleep. The animals, the birds aren't even chirping. And you sit there and you just feel so blissful. There's really nothing quite like it. And so anyway, he told her, get up and get meditating at 4. And so she first did it. She would hear his footsteps with the wooden sandals that they would wear coming to her door and stopping at the door. And she would get up and she would know, okay, it's time to meditate. And then that went on, and she would get up every time. She would get up and meditate. That went on for some time. And then she went, oh, I don't really feel like getting up. It's cold. It's whatever, wet. And so I don't want to get up. So then she stopped little by little, and then she stopped more and more. And then the footsteps stopped, meaning her guru didn't come. And that's not what we want. Master can help you to think of God all day long. If you call to him and just say, I want to get up. I want to think of God, help me. You'll find that He's always there and Divine Mother's always there. It's a beautiful life when you can take the time to think more about God. I would like to ask Nitendra now to come on with a couple of questions that we have. Okay.
Thank you, Dhyana ji. Sorry, my internet is a bit unstable. So, Dhyana ji, let me just share my screen. The first question is, life is so busy these days, and I feel like I'm always running and can't even get a break. Once I take a break, then I'm so tired that I only want to sit on the couch and watch TV. So how can I change that cycle?
That's a good one, isn't it? And I think a lot of people go on a vacation and they come back more tired than when they left because they think they're going to get rejuvenated. The vacation, they've got maybe 3, 5 children there running around, and the wife and the husband are arguing, and the relatives aren't happy, and they're not happy with the hotel. And, it goes on and on and on. They come back exhausted. I mean, people tell me they need a vacation after the vacation. The real vacation is inside yourself, let's face it. And there'll always be outer things. And you'll have to just figure out how you're going to have at least half a day, 3 hours, something every week that's your time with God. Start with that. Start this week and just say, okay, Saturday mornings, that's my time with God. Even if you can only get 3 or 4 hours. And let me just tell you, you can get up earlier. It's just not a big deal. If you're a late night person, maybe you stay up later. But carve out the time. And if you're always racing, how can a person like that really meditate when you really think about it? You're always restless and anxious and running around. And so I would say, get some time that you carve out that's your own. And just spend that time with Divine Mother. It's really all that's important. I mean, if you get that right, seek ye first the kingdom of God. Everything else falls into place. If you don't have that in place, then nothing is going to really work. And I think we all try to make things work out there, but it just doesn't. So carve out the time and you'll be able to do it. And you'll find that what I find is I save time. If I can meditate well, then my mind is sharp. I've got the ideas, the inspiration comes, the answers are there, the solutions are there. I know what to do. If you don't meditate and you're not centered in God, then you're just running around and just round and round and round in circles. You can't figure anything out. And then you're so tired, you collapse on the couch, and the couch is going to wake me up. The couch doesn't wake you up, and the television doesn't either. But there's time for a diversion. You have to have that, but don't make that the thing that's going to wake you up and make you think of God. It's not, honestly, the time I feel the most in God consciousness is when I'm either meditating or serving. The other times it's no comparison, that. So figure that out, and then you're going to find that, wow, my whole life is going much better. I have more energy. I'm more inspired. I've got Master with me. He's giving me the ideas, and work it out. And I would work it out sooner rather than later. I see people years go by. They're old. Their back is bent over. They can't think straight anymore. They have no memory. And, that's not the time to say, now I'm going to give my life to God. It's like, give it now. And you'll find that everything works out better.
Thank you, Dhyana ji. We have a live question. I do
Okay.
have time in my life, but let's say if I have a partner or a family which does not believe in spirituality, so it becomes harder to find time for my own meditation. So how do I handle that kind of a situation?
Yeah, I think people like to do different things. So maybe you want to meditate and the husband wants to play golf. Do you say, don't go play golf? Don't go with your friends? Don't go wherever they're going. I mean, everybody, and you can't be together all the time. No. Let's face it, that's not good. And so you have hobbies. You can call it a hobby if you want, and your spouse has hobbies. And there's times when you're not together. So just say, well, you like to do this, and I like to meditate. And once the person sees you looking better and more happy and glowing, and you're not as negative and hard to get along with and all that, they'll say, go meditate. So I would say that people do different things. And some people like to garden. Some people like to go for a run or a bike ride or go to the golf course. I think it's just you have to have time alone by yourself. And explain to your spouse that, I feel better when I meditate. I feel more centered. I feel more happy. I feel more clear. What are they going to say? I don't want you to feel happy. Just be with me. I don't think that's the case. So.
Thank you, Dhyanaji. We have 2 more questions.
All right.
The first one is, how can I start longer meditations once a week? It seems so hard to sit longer and find time for that.
Yeah, well, let's say this. I remember Swamiji used to say, I'll bargain with you. Let's say this. If you meditate normally 1 hour in the morning, why don't you on the long meditation days meditate 2 hours? Pretty simple. And you can add in there, if you're too restless, you can add in some readings, music, a chant. If you don't chant yourself, a recording of a chant, master's voice, add in some things along the way. Maybe, I don't know, every 20 minutes. You can do it easily. I mean, Master said everybody becomes a yogi at the movie theater. They're just sitting, gazing at the screen, 2 hours. In India, it's 3 hours, just looking straight into the screen. And so don't belittle yourself. You've got the strength to do it. I started long meditations before I had Kriya. And I used to see those boards, those Om boards that people had. I didn't know what that was. I didn't have the Om technique either, but I had will and willingness. And I sat there. It was not easy, but I'll give you this point. I had a breakthrough. Once I had the breakthrough, I never went back. I just saw what long meditations do for you. And I've done it for all these decades. So just get started and pray to Master that he helps you to get that in every week if you can. Then you just feel like, oh, okay, I'm ready for the week. Yeah, makes sense?
Absolutely, Dhyanji. Thank you.
Yeah, and Natendra, so you're a marathon runner and, triathlon, and you have to work up to that. And, it's not always easy. I'm sure, sometimes you push yourself to do it, but the rewards are there. So whatever you want to do, if you want to do it, you can do it. If you don't, you won't. So I would say this last point, and then we have one more question, is don't make excuses. When I got to India, I found so many excuses from people. I told them I'm writing a new book, the Book of Excuses, because I heard them all. But just don't go there. If you want to do something, you can do it. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. But don't say, oh, this excuse and that excuse and that excuse. Just go for it. And you have the strength inside of you to do that. So one last question you have?
Yes, Dhyanaji, which is, when will I have time to do other things that I would like to do in my life? Because it always feels there is no time.
Well, let me just say this. There are phases in life. Here's an example. When we lived in Italy for Ananda, we started the center there, the work there, and everybody was new. So people all came. They didn't know energization. They didn't know Hong Sa. They didn't know anything. So we had to teach them. And then they couldn't meditate long. So, we meditated a short time, went on for 7 years in my life. And all the other Ananda people, it was like a lot of chanting and a short meditation. I went up to Swamiji one day. I said, we never meditate. All we do is chant. You need to chant. That was what he said to me. And so that was a phase. Then I came to Ananda Village and I went into the Kriya Sangha. And in that, I had to meditate more. And so I think there are phases in life. You have times when you have less time. There's times you have more time. Maybe you don't have children, then you have children, you have less time, then the children are grown up, you have more time. Just go with the natural rhythms of life. I know someone asked Swamiji, they just had a child and they said, I'm just not meditating at all. I mean, this is all I'm doing is being with this child. And Swamiji said, that's your sadhana right now. So it really has to do with the rhythms of life and going with those rhythms. And finally, I'll say this, that what you want to not do is when you have the time and you don't use it. You have plenty of time, but you fill it up with all kinds of other things. That's not right. And I see people saying, oh, I don't have time. Like during COVID, everybody had more time. But did people meditate more? I mean, did people do more sadhana? Everybody had more time. I don't have time. So if you want to do it, you can. And it'll make a huge, huge difference in your whole life. God bless you all. And thank you, Natindra, for your help.